Unstable Games has made plenty of products to make your game night fun. So today we're going to talk about their newest one, Casting Shadows. So let's get right into it. Casting Shadows is a sort of board game, a tile game, you could say. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick your character. You have these cute little guys. And then as you go through the game, they're going to transform into their shadow form. So we'll take this one as an example. So you're going to pick your little guy, and then you see here you have health. Put down to 0. I mean, you start at the 18, start at the max health. So you have your health and you have your shadow. As you go through the game, you're going to be collecting shadow. And then once you get it up to 3, you transform into your shadow form. And then now you still have your health, and now you're back down to 0 shadow. And then as you go through the game, you collect more shadow. And once you get up to the required shadow in order to use your ability, you can use your ability. Each character has their own specific ability that does different things. They might do damage, they might do whatnot. Like the axolotl heals. Spend 5 shadow energy and gain 5 HP. And for each character, you get your own little meeple. They have that in a lot of their games. Going back to the tiles. After you pick your character, you put down your tiles. Each character has their own specific tile. This is the axolotl's tile. So that's the tile that you start at. And each tile gets a card next to it. Also, real quick, they have this little booklet thing here for each of the tiles. And these are the bonuses you get when you start a turn on that tile. So you're going to put a card next to all the tiles. This one gets the counter spell, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the rest of them get a card from the regular deck, which there are cards like this, which you can get. It doesn't cost anything to get these. You just have to be on the tile. It just costs an action. And then when you use them later on, it gives you a resource, which we'll talk about the resources in a second. Speaking of the resources, when you start your turn, you're going to roll 5 dice. Each one has these different symbols on them. The gem, the shadow energy, the orb, dark gem, cursed gem. They are your resource pool for your turn. They determine what you have to spend on spells and whatnot. And if you have a cursed gem at the end of the turn, it hurts you. You minus 1 HP. So if you're on a location or you move to a location, speaking of real quick, my favorite parts, the reference card tells you exactly what you can do on your turn. 4 action points per turn in order to do any of these actions. They each cost 1 point. To travel, collect, refresh, reroll, protect, and cast. Now, travel is to move. Collect, you spend the required resources to move a spell, counterspell, or resource card from next to your current hex tile to your spell book. Basically, you get the spell or the counterspell or whatever. You can only have 5 cards in your spell book, not counting. You also get a little shadow companion when you transform. We'll talk about that in a minute when we're talking about transforming. Refresh, you move the card next to your hex tile and get a new one, basically, if you don't like the card there. Reroll, you can choose to reroll one of your dice. You can't reroll cursed crystals, which I call them cursed gems, but they're called cursed crystals. Protect, you remove 1 cursed crystal from your resource pool, that way you don't get hurt. And then cast, you cast a spell. Speaking of spells, there are 3 levels of spells. 1, 2, 3. In order to get the spell, you have to spend the resource in order just to get it. So that'd be 1 blue orb and any colored gem. And if you want to use the spell, you have to spend whatever it says. You have to do whatever it says down here. Spend 1 red gem and 1 blue gem. And then you deal damage. Now that right there is the area of effect. So the one that looks like a little keyhole is where you're at. And the dark spot is wherever it would do damage to. And then for like the level 2 spell, it costs a level 1 spell. So you basically get rid of a level 1 spell from your spell book and replace it with a level 2 spell. And then there are also ones like this where it doesn't cost you anything to use the spell. But then it's like it only hits your area. So you'd have to move into somebody else's tile. And then the level 3 spell, it costs a level 2 spell, and then that, and then you just have to do whatever. And they are really powerful. There's also these cards, which allow you to turn resources into different resources. And it's basically a spell, and it just allows you to transform resources. I mentioned a minute ago that there are this tile gets counter spells. So examples of counter spells. They are as they sound. They help you protect yourself against spells. Like this one, if you get hit by a spell, you do damage to them. The run away, you can basically just run away from an attack. It just helps you not get hit by spells. You have your little axolotl guy here, and you get your shadow up to 3, and then you get to transform into your shadow form. Well, when that happens, you get to pick a shadow companion. There are a bunch of different ones to pick from. Like this one makes it so you can move a lot more. This one, if you're on the same tile as somebody, they get hurt. They all have different effects and stuff. You get to pick one after you transform, and then that's it. You can't change them out. So you transform, you get a shadow companion, which goes into your spellbook. So 5 cards, and then your companion. So 6 in total. They also have these guys for when you roll, if you get extra resources. So basically, you pick your character, you have your tiles, you run around, collect resources, collect spells, and use spells to attack your enemies. And you try to reduce all of your enemies' health to 0. The person who is left standing at the end is the victor. When we started playing, it seemed a little complicated. There's a lot of rules and a lot of like exceptions to stuff and whatever. But once we started getting playing, I've played it a bunch of times now. It's actually pretty simple once you start getting going and you learn all the rules and stuff. And this guy always helps. I think it's another great product by Unstable Games. Can't wait for their new one, their next one, Command of Nature, which comes out next year. And then hopefully later this year, I'll be getting the expansion for Casting Shadows. And I'll do a video on that one. You want to hear about more Unstable Games? Watch this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified whenever a new video comes out.